Hello people, today we are going to learn about collect requirement processes. So let's get started. Collect requirement is a process of determining, documenting, and managing stakeholder needs and requirements to meet project objectives. The key benefit of this process is that it provides the basis for defining and managing the project scope, including product scope. So the inputs involved for the collective requirement processes is scope management plan, requirement management plan, stakeholder management plan, project charter, stakeholder register. Tools and techniques used are interviews, focus groups, facilitated workshop, group creativity techniques, group decision making techniques, questionnaires and surveys, object observations, prototypes, benchmarking, context diagrams, document analysis. And the output is requirement documentation and requirement traceability matrix. Let's see one by one. So the first input is scope management plan. The scope management plan provides a clarity as to how the project team will determine which type of requirement needs to be collected for the project. Requirement management plan. The requirement management plan provides and processes that will be used throughout the collect requirement process to define and document the stakeholder needs. The stakeholder management plan. The stakeholder management plan is used to understand stakeholders, communication requirement, and the level of stakeholder engagement in order to assess and adapt to the level of stakeholder participation in requirement activities. Other inputs are project charter and stakeholder register. We have already learned about these in detail in my past tutorial. So if you want to learn in detail, you can go back to my channel and find the tutorial on this topic. In brief, the project charter is used to provide a high-level description of the product, service, or result of the project so that detailed requirement can be developed. Stakeholder register is used to identify stakeholders who can provide information on the requirements. Stakeholder register also captures major requirements and main expectation stakeholders may have for the project. Tools and techniques. The first one is interviews. An interview is a formal or informal approach to elicit information from the stakeholders by talking to them directly. It is typically performed by asking prepared and spontaneous questions and recording the responses. Interviews are often conducted on an individual basis between an interviewer and interview, but may involve multiple interviewers and or multiple interviewees. Focus groups. Focus group brings together pre-qualified stakeholders and subject matter experts to learn about their expectation and attitudes about our proposed product, service, or result. A trained moderator provides the group through an interactive discussion designed to be more conversational than one-on-one interview. Other thing is facilitated workshops. Facilitated workshops are a focused session that brings key stakeholder together to define product requirement. Workshops are considered a primary technique for quickly defining cross-functional requirement and reconciling stakeholder differences. Because of their interactive group nature, well-facilitated session can build trust, foster relationship, and improve communication among the participants, which can lead to increased stakeholder consensus. Facilitated workshops are called Joint Application Development or JAD session are used in the software development industry. These facilitated sessions focus on bringing business, subject matter experts, and the development team together to improve the software development process. In manufacturing industry, quality function deployment is another example of facilitated workshop technique that helps determine critical characteristics for a new product development. QFD starts by collecting customer needs, also known as voice of customer. These needs then are then objectively sorted and prioritized, and goals are set for achieving them. User stories, which are short textual description of required functionality, are often developed during the requirement workshop. This is how the House of Quality QFD looks. Here at the top on the roof is a correlation matrix, then is the technical requirement, then is the relationship matrix. Here is the customer requirement, then here is the competitive assessment, and here is specification or target values. User stories describe the stakeholders who benefit from the feature role, what stakeholder needs to accomplish, and the benefit to the stakeholder motivation. User story are widely used with agile methods. Group activity techniques are brainstorming, nominal group technique, idea mapping, and affinity diagram, and multi-criteria decision analysis. So let's see one by one. Brainstorming is a technique used to generate and collect multiple ideas related to product requirement. Although brainstorming by itself does not include voting or prioritization, it is often used with other group activity techniques that do. Nominal group technique, a technique that enhances brainstorming with voting process used to rank the most useful idea for further brainstorming or for prioritization. Idea or mind mapping is a technique in which ideas created through individual brainstorming sessions are consolidated into a single map to reflect communality and differences in understanding and generate new ideas. What is affinity diagram? A technique that allows large number of ideas to be classified into groups for reviews and analysis. Multi-criteria decision analysis, a technique that utilizes a decision matrix to provide a systematic analytical approach to establish criteria such as risk level, uncertainty valuation, and to evaluate and rank many ideas. Then there is a group decision making technique, which is there are various methods for reaching group decisions such as unanimity, majority, plurality, and dictatorship. So, in case of unanimity, a decision is reached where everyone agrees on a single course of action. And one example is Delphi method, in which selected group of experts answers questionnaires and provide feedback regarding the response of each round of requirement gathering. Then there is majority, a decision that is reached with support obtained for more than 50% of the member group. Then there is a plurality, a decision that is reached whereby the largest block in group decides even if the majority is not achieved. This method is generally used when the number of options nominated is more than two. In dictatorship, in this method, one individual makes decision for the group. Other tools and techniques are questionnaires and surveys, observation, prototypes, and benchmarking. Questionnaires are written sets of questions designed to quickly accumulate information from large number of respondents. Observations are also known as job shadowing, provide a direct way of viewing individual in their environment, how they perform their jobs or tasks or carry out processes. Prototype is a method of obtaining early feedback on the requirements by providing working model of the expected product before actually building it. What is benchmarking? Benchmarking involves comparing actual or planned practices such as processes and operations to those of comparable organizations to identify best practices, generate ideas for improvement, and provide basis for measuring performance. And the last two tools and techniques are context diagram and document analysis. In case of context diagram, it is an example of scope model. Context diagram is usually depict the product scope by showing a business system, process, equipment, or computer system, etc., and how the people and other systems like actors interact with it. And the context diagram shows inputs to the business system, the actors providing the input, the output of the business system, and the actors receiving the output. So basically, the context diagram is an example of scope model which visually depicts the product scope. That is document analysis. It is used to elicit requirement by analyzing existing documentation and identifying information relevant to the requirements. There are a wide range of documents that may be analyzed to help elicit relevant requirement. Output. There are two outputs: requirement documentation and requirement traceability matrix. So let's see one by one. In case of requirements documentation, the components are business requirement, which include business and project objective for traceability, business rules for performing organization, guiding principle of the organization. In case of stakeholder requirement, it includes impacts to the organizational areas, impacts to other entities inside or outside performing organization, and stakeholder communication and reporting requirement. In case of solution requirement, it includes functional and non-functional requirement, technology and standard compliance requirement, support and training requirement, quality requirement, reporting requirement. Reporting requirement can be textual, model, or both. Project requirement can be levels of service, performance, safety compliance, and acceptance criteria. Transition requirement assumption, dependency, and constraints. The second output is requirement traceability matrix. What is it? It is a grid that links product requirement from their origin to the deliverables that satisfy them. It helps ensure that each requirement adds business value by linking it to the business and project objectives. It provides a means to track requirements throughout the project lifecycle, helping to ensure that requirements approved in the requirement documentation are delivered at the end of the project. Finally, it provides a structure for managing changes to the product scope. Tracing includes tracing requirement for the following: business needs, opportunities, goals, and objectives, project scope or work breakdown structure deliverables, product design, product development, test strategy, test scenario, high level requirement to more detailed requirement. So guys, I hope you got some idea on the collect requirement process C. So let's revise it. The input for the collect requirement was scope management plan, requirement management plan, stakeholder management plan, product charter, stakeholder register. And the tools and techniques are interviews, focus groups, facilitated workshop, group creativity techniques, group decision making techniques, questionnaires and surveys, observation, prototypes, benchmarking, context diagram, document analysis, and output is obviously requirement documentation and requirement traceability matrix. So guys, I hope you got some idea on the process collect requirements. If you are new to my channel, subscribe below and or come back to my channel for more videos on PMP and other things. Thank you very much for watching.